Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tom. I'm with the account management team here at aXcelerate, and we are joined by Luke from our CS team. Hi. Awesome. And we've been with aXcelerate now for about 2 years, and Luke has been for 6 months. And look, we're going to have a pretty good session today looking at our learner portal. Essentially, we're going to run you through various little tricks that we've found over our time here with aXcelerate. Now, the areas we're going to be covering today are, firstly, an introduction to the learner portal. So we've got a few people in the call today who may be aware we have a learner portal, but may not actually fully understand the capabilities, because we've made a lot of improvements over the last few years. We're also going to have a look at how you can customize the branding, theme, and opacity for your learner portal so you can really make it match your RTO's branding. We're also going to touch on some display options. Now, what we mean by that are various yes or no toggles throughout the system that will change how the learner portal appears to the students and even change some various elements within that learner portal. And we're going to finish off by looking at the learner profile itself. So what the student, your learner, can access and change from their profile, and how you guys can actually change who and well, what I suppose they're able to change on their own profile. And finally, we're going to touch off and see what the learners can customize on their own accord. Now, guys, throughout the topic today, we do have a couple of people from our team reviewing the chat. So if you do have any questions throughout this presentation, feel free to pop them in the chat. They will be reviewed. And if there are any that have been unanswered at the end, we will be doing a bit of a Q&A at the conclusion. So, guys, the learner portal itself, one of the big questions we get asked is, why use it? Now, historically, and we're talking a few years ago, the aXcelerate Learner Portal was more of like a data repository where students can go in, they can access their assessments. Really, they're just PDFs they're downloading, any resources, so on and so forth. However, we have made massive changes to the Learner Portal, and it's really not just for assessments. We're going to go through and show you today a lot of the functionality available that really can be underutilized by some RTOs. We're going to show you that it can be more of a resource database as well. So like that earlier point says, it's not just for assessments. Students can actually access resources that you make available to them. And students can also update their own information. So depending on the settings that we're going to look at later on in the presentation, students could actually go in and provide their own eventmas or contact details. Now, what I want to do is I quickly want to jump into an example learner portal that we have set up. And I'm going to show you how we can make this look exactly like we've got it on the screen here. So a quick rundown, you'll notice we have a nice transparent background so it doesn't block our image of the sunset. We've also matched the highlighting color of our learner portal to match our company's branding. In this case, it's orange. And also, we've set up a night mode view for our students, and you can see that when they toggle, it changes both the main color from black to white as well as the background itself. So guys, I'm going to pass this over to Luke now, and he's going to run you through how we can actually set some of these up. Luke, over to you, mate.
Thank you, Tom. So we're just going to go over a few things here in terms of branding, theme, and opacity. These are settings that you'll find within the learner portal settings in your system settings of aXcelerate. So I'm just going to go over, going to go over to what we can see here with our aXcelerate dashboard. So we'll be starting off and we'll go into settings, system settings, and then learner, portal, and app settings. So we're starting off with, we have two tabs that we can see here. We have your general learner portal and app settings, and then you have your logo and customization. We'll be looking at logo and customization to start off with. And this is where you'll find information, or the settings rather, that you can see for your logo, your background image, your opacity, and then your theme and your fonts. So we'll start off with the logo. We have nothing currently set here within the logo of this learner portal, just because we wanted to show you the difference or where you would be seeing the logo, or you'd be seeing the home dashboard icon. So pretty self-explanatory, but you can set your light logo. So that's a logo that you're going to see when you have your light mode setting on.
And if we can just, sorry to take over, Luke, if we jump into our learner portal here, the logo would appear where this home button is at the top. And as Luke said, the reason we haven't included a logo in this example is we want to show you guys what that button looks like by default, and also show you that it will change in line with your color choice as well.
Correct.
Back over to you, mate. Sorry to interject there.
Thank you. So then, of course, we have the set dark logo. So that's when you go into your night mode or your dark mode. That would be changing the logo that you have for that there. Of course, as we just said, we've left that blank just to show you the settings that we have down here. Tom did, touch lightly on what we're seeing for our background images when we change between our light and our dark mode. We do have a nice little beach with a little bit of a sunset there for our light background image, and then we've got a nice photo here for our dark background image. You can see of all the palm trees that we have there. So to show you quickly that within the learner app that we have here, learner portal that we have here. So we did see the enable night mode, and you can see that's changed there. Obviously it's gotten darker, and it really matches, and the photos really match with the dark and the light mode that we have. So I'll enable that back over to light mode that we have right here, and you've seen that switch right back. So the next part that we're looking at, we have the background container opacity. So basically what this means is the higher the value of this percentage here means more opacity that you'll see for your background container. Background container, if you'd like to know, is just this, what we're seeing here, just around the container that we have. So I'll just show you quickly, if we were to change that to 0%.
Maybe make it 100%, that might make it a bit more.
Well, we'll change it to 100%, yep. Sorry.
Instead. And you'll see why we want to do that, because that'll show you exactly what's going to change. And now if we come in and refresh, you'll see that this is now a solid background. So that's what we refer to with opacity.
Correct.
Sorry, man, I keep taking over.
That's fine. Alrighty, so we'll go back to the settings here. So we do suggest that you have anywhere between a 60 to 80% opacity, because if you have a little look here at the information, if you can read that, it does impact, text that you may have, more information, of course, on your learning plan or your dashboard or anything that you have. It may be affected by that opacity. So try and find something that's good for your learner portal, but we do suggest anywhere between 60 to 80. So I'll put that back
to 60
at 60%.
Cool.
Awesome. So next that we have there, so we have the theme. So the theme basically, it means what color of your learner portal that you're looking at. When it comes down to it, what color that you're looking to have, match with the images or the background images or even the logo that you have within your account. So currently we have it set to marigold, and as you can see here, it gives us a lovely marigold or orange color that we have that's attached to the learner portal. We're gonna refresh that so we can see our opacity come back. Excellent.
Looks so much nicer at 60%, doesn't it?
So I'm just going to show you quickly. So if we have marigold here, I'm going to put it to ocean with the blue. I'm going to show you just the difference that we see with that learner portal once it loads.
So this will primarily change highlights throughout the system. So we might give that a second again and refresh.
Oh, when it's ready, did I save it
properly? Make sure we've saved that properly.
Yep.
In Ocean, cool. We'll give this one more go, otherwise it'll update shortly. Sometimes it does take a minute or two to update, excuse me, in the learner portal. So we'll leave it on Ocean, and throughout the demonstration, we'll come back to it once it has updated.
Awesome. So lastly, we have here, just talking in regards to that, is the font family. So we do have pretty limited in terms of what you can choose, but we do have the serif style or the sans serif style, which you can change there for your learners to have a look. We're just going to leave it on serif style, like the way that looks at the moment. Feel free to, have a little look for yourself, see what you like, you prefer. But we have it currently set to the serif style because that's what I enjoy, and I think that Tom liked that as well because he's the one that set up this learner portal. So yeah, so that's what we're looking at of branding, theme, and opacity. Let me just double check that we. Yeah, perfect. So we went in, we had a look at everything. We looked at the light mode versus dark mode. Just want to see if this is loaded yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But it'll
That's
come
fine.
back. We'll be
It
doing
will
lots of demoing,
Yeah.
guys. You'll see it. Don't worry.
Awesome. So yeah, so we looked at the branding theme opacity in there. Nothing left in that one, so I'll hand it back over to Tom.
Now we're going to be talking about some display options in the Learner Portal. Now, what I mean by this, as I said earlier on, there's a lot of simple yes or no toggles that you can enable throughout the Learner Portal. So I'm going to be showing you what those are and really highlight some important ones on the screen. The important ones being an option called Enable Learner Dashboard, the welcome message, and your default course overview tab. So let's jump back into our Learner Portal settings. Now we're moving away from the logo and customization tab into general Learner Portal and app settings. And we're coming down here to these display options. So there's quite a few in here. A lot of these are very self-explanatory. Here's your calendar. Do you want to show your calendar? Yes or no? So I'm not going to spend too much time going into all of these in great detail, but the important ones I do want to show you. Enable Learner Dashboard. Now, by default, this is always on yes. And if we come back into our Learner Portal, what we're seeing on the screen right now is our Learner Dashboard. So if I was to go into a class as an example, I'm no longer on my dashboard. I'm in my class interface. Now, why would we want to disable our Learner Dashboard? Let's have a look at what happens when we change this to no and we click Save. I'm going to come back into my Learner Portal once this has had a think. There we go. Now I'm going to refresh my page. All I'm going to do is click refresh, and you'll see now it puts me directly into one of my classes, my most recent class. My dashboard has been disabled. If I click home, it doesn't let me return and it will keep me in my class. Now, just to show you again, if I come back into our settings and I turn back on our Learner Dashboard, and I give this a moment to update, when I click the home button back in our Learner Portal, it's going to allow me to go back to our dashboard there we go, let me refresh this again and come back home. Here we go. So we're back on our dashboard. Now, why would we ever want to disable that? This has a very niche use case where we might have students who are only ever enrolled into one course, and they may be struggling with the transition from paper-based to online learning. So this setting, by disabling the dashboard, makes it so those students are immediately put into their class and showing all the class content. So they don't have to worry about viewing this homepage here. It brings them straight in to what they need to focus on. Now, coming back into our system settings, coming back down into display, the next important one I want to show you guys is show welcome message. So again, this is always yes by default. And what will happen is when a learner logs into their Learner Portal for the first time, so not returning, it's their first ever time accessing the Learner Portal, they are going to get a welcome message pop up on their screen. And we can customize what that welcome message looks like in this window below. So what I've done is I've written welcome to the Learner Portal. I've included a hyperlink so students can update their own details, and we'll be showing you that later on in this session as well. And I've also embedded a PowerPoint in this welcome message. So let's come back into our Learner Portal. I, of course, have already accessed our Learner Portal, so it's not going to pop up for me by default. But if you ever wanted to test this and view to see what it does look like, within your Learner Portal, you can hover over the question mark at the top right and click Welcome Message. So this, in this account, is what our students would be seeing the first time they boot up their their Learner Portal. And you click Get Started to go back. Now, the final option I wanted to walk you guys through here is this drop-down menu called Default Course Overview tab. Now, what this refers to is the default view the student has when they view one of their classes. So in this case, I'm enrolled in a Certificate 4 in Work Health and Safety. I'm going to click on this class, and these 3 tabs at the top here are what we call our course overview. So if we come back in here, you'll see the default course overview tab is on units of competency. So when the student logs into their class, the first thing they see are their units of competency. Alternatively, we might want to make it so the first thing they see is their learning plan, because this includes the content they actually have to work through. So if we come into our settings and we change this to learning plan by default and save, give this a moment to think, and I'm going to jump back to my dashboard here. And what we're going to do, jump back into that exact same class, and it hasn't updated just yet. I'll give this a quick refresh. There we go. And you'll see that learning plans are now the default tab the student sees when they go into their class. So if you're utilizing learning plans in your RTO, we do recommend setting that as your default tab that students see when they access the class. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Luke, and he's going to speak about the learner profile customization for you guys.
Thank you. Okay, so another part of the learner portal is that you can have with the learner themselves able to update details and go through and see information that's connected to their own learner portfolio. So to show you that, we have a look here within the system settings. I'll show you quickly. So you have show learner portfolio. So firstly, you can decide to whether or not you want to have that set on at all. So you can choose yes or no, obviously.
And if you click no, you'll notice all those options disappear as well. Sorry, mate, I'll let you handle that. There you go.
If you click no, we lose all those options. So we're just going to quickly go and have a look at those options there. So within your learner portfolio, you can have the show qualifications tab, show memberships tab, show licenses tab, registration, other, and show learner transcript. Now, just to show quickly, I'll only give an example of one of those, but if you see with the show licenses tab, so what this might relate to is if you are you have a certain type of training and you need to have information showing, well, you have to have,
it's like a forklift license.
Correct.
And,
Yeah,
the student might need to upload their driver's license or something.
That's
as
correct.
part of that.
Yeah. So you have a forklift training course. You have to show information in regards to their driver's license, which is a prerequisite of having that course. So we can go into the profile settings within the learner portal. Apologies. Open too many P's. Learner portal, and then go into the learner portfolio, and you'll see the information in regards to that wall. You can see where you can upload them. So we have qualifications, memberships. We're looking at licenses that we have here. Apologies. Licenses. So here you can see not yet added. So these are things that you can add in there, which might show within your aXcelerate. So construction, induction, white card, information like that. So what we're looking at is driver's license. Now you can see here, they can also view things that they've already uploaded or have already been uploaded against their contact. For this instance, we have a driver's license, expires never, which is lovely.
That's it. And if I can just interject for 2 moments here, Luke, if there's anyone watching and you're not familiar with what portfolios are, it's a very powerful feature within aXcelerate that we won't be delving into today, but we do have a lot of documentation available through our help center to look into this further. So if you're looking here wondering, oh, how do they have a construction, a white card area? How do they have the driver's license here? Have a look through our resources at portfolios, and we have heaps of step-by-step guides to help you set up very similar looking portfolios.
That's right. Awesome. So that's what we have there for the portfolio. So once again, you can decide whether you want to have this on or off completely. Having it on obviously gives the chance for your students to upload and see their portfolio items that have already been uploaded. So the next ones that we have here, once again, are yes or no options. Pretty self-explanatory. You can have learners can update their address details. So just if you want them to fill in their own information that they have for their address details, they're able to do that. You can see that within the profile settings. Look down here. So we do have information in regards to address info that they can update for themselves. You also have information where you can have the learners update their own contact photo. That can also be done pretty
You
easily
scroll up,
all the way up
just at the
just
top
by
there.
adding a profile picture at the top there. Okay, so you can also get them to update their own vet details. You can get them to update their own emergency contact details. And what's a really nice thing to show at the end here, we do have show invoice and payments. So if you have that set as yes, you can actually, within your own file, learner portal, you can see here that we have invoices. So this is obviously something that is done within your aXcelerate. You have invoices attached to whatever form of training that the student or the contact might have. And then that information will show within their portal. You can see this one here still has to be paid. So that's the reason why you might show it in there, but also you might have it in there for already paid invoices so that they may be able to see that it has been paid and there's nothing left for them to basically go into and do. And then lastly, the show vet details. I might leave this part for Tom to go over just because he's got a little bit more information than I do.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. So this is referring to the vet details tab here within the student's profile. And you can see that because of our settings, I am able to go through, update my USI and alternate email and provide my personal vet details. Now, be careful with this option because of course this gets reported on as part of your Vetmis reporting. And if a student comes in here and changes their own details, that may result in errors down the track. So make sure you've spoken to your compliance team if this is something you wanted to investigate, because we do have quite a few RTOs that will request these students provide their details via the learner portal. But it's always our recommendation that when collating vet details, you do so through some sort of an enrollment form, such as our online enrollments, which makes them mandatory fields that can be reviewed by your administration team up on the student's enrollment. This is more so helpful if there's students that have to change their details. You can allow them to do that themselves. But of course, because this is all reported on, just be careful with that and make sure it is a path you want to go down before you enable learners can update their vet details. Now, I'll quickly say, if we don't let them update, but we do let them view, the student can come in and see the details they provided to you upon enrollment, assuming that's data you collate. And if we refresh in here, we can see the details, but now we can't actually enter them. So there's some pretty cool functions you can have around those vet details, whether it's just showing the student what they provided, whether it's allowing them to update, or you can completely hide it from them. If you don't want them to ever see any vet details, you can come down the bottom, click no, and that tab will completely disappear from their learner portal. Now, learner customization. There's not going to be too much in here. This will be a quick little area to run through. So predominantly in aXcelerate, of course, we will set up the learner portal as per your settings. But I wanted to run through and show you what the learner can change. So let's come back into our learner portal. And I'm going to click on customization, which is the next tab down here. You know what I've just realized? Remember how earlier in the presentation, we changed this to ocean, the theme, and it hadn't updated. I now realize that's because as a student, I had actually opted to have a different theme. So if I come in here and change this to ocean now, there you'll go. You'll see that that has now changed. And even if we go back to our home page, we have these colors in here instead of orange. So it turns out it wasn't taking a while to update. It was just taking my brain a little while to process the fact that I had actually customized that myself. And I'll show you here as well, the customization for night mode. This is the exact same toggle that we have up here. So this is purely just if they want it or not, but again, by default, it is disabled. And for their font, again, they have the same two choices that we have from the administration side. But look, I recommend leaving that with the defaults. Actually, I'm going to go back to Sans. It actually looks a bit nice. I'm going to go with Sans for this one. Cool. Now, if we jump back into our settings here and we scroll down to our learner customization, I want to show you guys a couple of these points here within learning plans. So there's an option here that says allow learners to provide module feedback. Now, what we mean by that is I'm the student, and again, I'm going to make this just my nice orange color. There we go. I'm going to go into a class that has a learning plan. And again, remember, this is the first thing we see now because we changed that setting earlier on in the session. And I might want to pass on feedback to my RTO that I absolutely loved how they handled the final assessment. So what I can do is I can hover over module 3 in this case of my learning plan, and there's a little provide feedback icon. And if I click this, it asks me, how did I feel? I'm going to give it a big smiley face, and I could go, this was awesome, and submit feedback. Now that is not feedback for aXcelerate. That is feedback for your RTO. And we can change who receives that feedback by going back into our system settings, and at the top of the page, recipient for feedback received via the learner portal. So this does have to be one of your administrator users. And if I nominated myself, anytime a student provided feedback to us, I would get an email summarizing what was said. Now that's how we can do it specifically relating to learning plans. But what if I have overall feedback I wanted to pass on to the RTO? I could click on the question mark at the top here and submit feedback. And again, this is feedback for your RTO, not feedback for aXcelerate. Now, the final thing that I want to touch on in here, if we come back down to the bottom, is a setting in here called Show Up Next Widget. Now, what this refers to is when a student is working through a learning plan and they're completing assessments, when they complete an assessment and this setting is yes, they're going to get a little pop-up at the bottom of the page that says, hey, you finished your assessment, click here to move on to the next. So it's really a widget to guide the student through their learnings. So look, really up to you guys if you want them to go back to their learner portal and review, or if you're happy for them to just click next and move on. So let's save that. Now guys, essentially, that's everything we wanted to run you through today. So I'm going to pass it over to Luke, who's going to summarize what we've looked at.
Yeah, so just in summary, we went through the branding, themes, and opacity. We talked about the logo. Just as something quickly to talk in regards, I did forget to mention in terms of the logo and the background. Your logo can only hold PNG files or PNG photo files. Your background images can have PNG, JPG, or GIF, or GIF, whichever you prefer.
I was waiting.
2 megabytes maximum on those ones there. So just keep that in mind when you are updating for logos or you're updating for your images. There is the maximum on the file sizes, and then of course the files themselves that you can upload there. But you will see that information when you're trying to upload it. We did talk about the background opacity in terms of making sure that it looks really nice between that 60 to 80% or whatever you feel like you want. But we believe that 60 to 80% is should be good for any type of background or any images that you have on there. We did talk about the theme in terms of changing the color and the text, keeping in mind, as we learnt or we now remember, if the student has set it for themselves, it's obviously going to, so what I'm looking for there, it's going to take over for whatever settings that you overwrite the settings that you have. We did talk about display options, going through the display options that we have, which Tom talked about, so I'll let him do a little bit of a brief summary of that.
So essentially that was to do with, there were the yes or no toggles that you can see. I highlighted a couple of the important ones, but really guys, have a flick through in your own time. There's little information bubbles next to each point, and they give you a very good breakdown of what each yes or no option does, just if you wanted a little bit more guidance.
Cool, so we went over the learner profile, which had information to do with the portfolio, had information to do where the student could update their own details, whether it is their personal, their basic, which means date of birth, name, information like email address, stuff like that, your address information to do with their postal address, and then also, of course, their vet details, which Tom did talk about. Please make sure that you are careful in regards to that, because once you have that as set for students to change, they can change that whenever they want. Also keep in mind that is a setting that's a blanket rule for all of your students or every learner that uses the learner portal. That can't be set for one person and not for everybody else. And then we did talk finally about the learner customization. So that allows for the learner to basically go in there and change a couple of things themselves. Very limited, of course, just there for the theme and basically the dark mode or night mode that we have in there. And then, of course, the font as well. So yeah, that's a summary of that.
Awesome. So guys, thank you for watching. We're going to wrap up today with a little bit of Q&A. I understand we've had some busy beavers typing away in chat. So we're going to have a quick review to see if there's anything outstanding that we could help with. But I do want to let you guys know as well, we do have another webinar planned that's going to be with Blair and John from our customer success team. And they're going to be looking at reports and dashboards within aXcelerate. So that's scheduled for the 23rd of August at the same time from 10:30 to 11:30. If you haven't signed up for that and you would like to, feel free to visit our aXcelerate website. You'll see a company tab, and if you hover over that, you'll see webinars that you can sign up to. So guys, I'm going to quickly have a look over at our busy beavers, see if we've got any questions that we can help with, or if you guys managed to, oh, perfect, we've got a few in here. Let's have a look in here. Sorry guys, I'm just getting ready to this, getting used to this interface off screen. Just bear with me for a moment. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna click this so I can actually read the full question. Here we go. So we have a question here from James. How come the night mode changed with the change of learner portal settings, but the theme was tied to the learner's preference? Great question, mate. So I'm going to jump back into our learner portal here. I'll let you know that whether the student is on light or dark mode is purely up to that student. So by default, it will always be light mode, and we want that to be the default for accessibility reasons. But the students can come in and toggle that. So that's purely from their own side. Even if you as an administrator went in and toggled on night mode, that would only be for yourself. So your students will always see the light mode. And so if it's a student logging in for the first time and they've gone into their profile settings, this would be disabled by default. But this disabled and enabled option, just a reminder, is exactly the same as this toggle at the top here. You'll see that changes as well. So hopefully that's answered your question, James. Feel free to type another if it has not, or you have a follow-up. Now let me have a look here. So Adrian, good question from you, mate. If the show vet details is set to no, can the student still enter their USI? So the answer is no, Adrian, and I'll quickly show the audience what we mean here. So what Adrian wants to know is learners can update their vet details is set to no, but we can still view those vet details. So let's save this, come back into our learner portal, give this a moment to think. Now let's come in here, profile settings.
It's actually the other way around, it's show vet details or no.
Oh, other way around, sorry mate, here we go. So in that case, if it's learners can update their vet and show details is no, they wouldn't be able to update their details. So even if this is set to a yes, but they can't view their vet details. Actually, Adrian, you're making me second guess myself, mate. Let's have a look at this together. Because you're right, vet details are a separate tab, but my gut's telling me they do get lumped in together. So let's have a look here, refresh. So there we go. So we've said, no, you can't update your vet detail, you can't see your vet details, but yes, you can update them, but that does mean they can't be seen, so they can't be updated. So to answer your question, Adrian, this would have to be yes, and learner can update would also have to be yes in order for the student to access and update their USI. Now let's have a quick look to see if there's another question here. Great question from Hannah. Does the background photo, font, and theme change for every student? So the answer is no, unless they've gone in and overwritten something. So logo and customization in here, what we're setting is going to be for every single one of our students. So everyone would see this same background, this background if they're on dark mode, the same opacity, and the same theme. However, if the student customizes, the only thing they can really change is the branding itself. So the background images and not necessarily the font, but the background images would be exactly the same for every student. And the only time the theme or the font would be different is if the student has actually gone in and manually overwritten that themselves. Okay, let me just have a quick read here. Oh, good question from James. Can we have multiple recipients for feedback via the learner portal? Mate, I reckon we can only have one, but let's have a look at that together. Yeah, it looks like you do nominate one contact. So again, this would be from your administrator list, and the email that it sends to would be based off that corresponding administrator. So look, unfortunately, James, we couldn't send it to a group. We do recommend nominating a single administrator to receive that. Now, I do believe we've got another question. Let me just have a quick look here.
Last question.
Here we go. So we've got our last question of the day, and it's from Donald. Is it possible to add the contact ID number to the learner profile? Mate, good question. Unfortunately, it's not. The contact ID generally isn't something the student would see. It's more so just a behind the scenes number to help collate that student's account and details. I do know that some RTOs actually make use of that contact ID and might use it as like a student ID. But unfortunately, Donald, no, we can't show the contact ID on the learner portal. So guys, that's going to bring us to a conclusion today. So just a reminder, our next webinar is on the 23rd of August, and we're going to be looking at reports and setting up your dashboard in aXcelerate. That will be with Blair and John from our team. And if you haven't signed up to that, but you do want to, visit our website, hover over the companies tab, and you will see all of our webinar details in there. So guys, thank you very much for attending today. If you did have anybody you wanted to send this recording to, we will be making this accessible on our YouTube channel in the coming days. So stay tuned there, guys. And look, thanks very much for your time. Thanks very much for the great questions you've asked. And we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.